I want to tell you a story. A flight engineer on an Eastern Airlines flight from Atlanta to Miami was surprised to find a uniformed crew member already sitting at his seat. The stranger said, "You don't need to worry about the pre-flight." Then the man just vanished. Strangely enough, the engineer recognized who just spoke with him. It was Donald Ripple, who was already deceased. If you're joining me for the first time and you love a true dark, scary, strange, mysterious and intriguing story, you have just found the right channel. Welcome to the Dark Past, where I'll be telling you one or two stories every week. So please do sit back, relax and enjoy today's story. On 29th of December 1972, the Eastern Airlines Flight 401, which had 163 passengers and 30 crew members, making it a total of 176 on board, was traveling from New York to Miami, Florida. On approach to Miami, the flight crew had become fixated on a faulty indication in the cockpit. They had not realized that the autopilot was disconnected, which ultimately caused the plane to lose altitude and crashed into the Florida Everglades, resulting in the deaths of 101 occupants, including Captain Robert Love, known as Bob, and flight engineer Donald Ripple, often called Don. Only 75 people survived the crash that day. This was the second deadliest plane crash in US history at that time, although today it's now ranked in 16th place. Days later, the wreckage of the aircraft was retrieved from the swamp and some of its parts were able to be salvaged, and those still in a sufficiently usable state were once again used on the Eastern Airlines fleet. And that's when the sightings all started. In one of the airline's many trips, a captain was asked to check on a passenger in first class who was in a pilot's uniform. But when he got to the said passenger in uniform, he looked dazed and unresponsive when spoken to, and he wasn't on the passenger's list. Suddenly, the captain recognized him as being none other than Bob, and he suddenly vanished. Another event was when a flight engineer was surprised to find a uniformed crew member already sitting at his seat, and the stranger said, "You don't need to worry about the pre-flight," and then vanished. He swore it was done. A flight attendant on a New York to Miami flight, the very route of the December 1972 crash, opened an overhead locker to find Bob's face peering out at her. On another flight, a flight attendant is said to have seen Don's face on the oven door. She called two of her fellow crew members in to witness what she had seen. He reportedly then said, "Watch out for fire in this plane." And on the returning flight, an engine failed and had to be shut down before it caught fire. On returning to the galley, another flight attendant saw an engineer fixing the oven. She later asked the flight engineer about the oven, and he said he didn't fix it and it didn't need to be fixed. She thought to herself, who could this have been? When she was shown some photo lineup to select whom she had seen, she eventually picked the photo of Don as the engineer she had seen. The vice president of the Eastern Airlines once boarded a flight from New York and chatted with a pilot who he assumed oversaw that sector. Later, he recognized that the pilot he had been speaking to was in fact late Bob. On another day, the crew was in the cockpit of an aircraft when they said to have seen Bob sitting with them. He warned them of a faulty electric circuit which was then found and replaced, and there were reports of Don having been seen doing his pre-flight checks of the aircraft and telling the ground staff that he had already completed them. The pilot was unnerved by what had happened and cancelled the flight that day. Another event occurred while preparing for a flight when a pilot heard loud talks coming from underneath the floor beneath him. He opened the trapdoor to see a vision of Dawn looking at him, which then promptly disappeared. Out of curiosity, wanting to investigate further, and reportedly found a problem that could have caused a serious accident, probably plane crash. Before the Eastern Airlines went out of business, these sightings were reported in a Flight Safety Foundation publication. The Eastern Airlines CEO dismissed the claim, and employees were warned not to talk about the sightings. The crew had previously been encouraged to report every incident pertaining to the flight in the aircraft's logbook, and many sightings have been recorded. Mysteriously, the logbooks started to go missing from the aircraft. Eventually, all the salvage parts were removed from the aircraft, and neither Bob nor Dawn were ever seen again. If you analyze these sightings carefully, you would by now have realized that they were all warnings evading some kind of disaster. That brings us to the end of today's story. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give it a like and share it, which encourages me to bring you more interesting stories like this from around the world. I don't know what media you are watching this with, but you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube. And please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. Thank you. See you next time, man. Bye for now.